Awesome. And there we are. Everybody all skate. Bring up the chat. Fabulous. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday Night Legacy Ascending Discovery session. And that's going to be a very, very powerful session. For those of you who have been waiting around for how do I get my debt paid off faster so that I can get funded, or my score isn't quite where I want it to be, how do I get that higher, and a few other really great surprises about literally creating generational wealth for yourself and your family while you pay it down, which is not something we would have been able to figure until this call tonight with a very special guest, a very special vendor, and a very special opportunity. So we're going to get going because time is short. You all are on time. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is cover something you all are probably tired of hearing, but some of you are new and probably should hear. And let me mention, I sound like a really over-smoked Marlon Brando. I'm getting over bronchitis. So I just started on the antibiotics today. I hate antibiotics, but it's been 4 solid days of no sleep and really bad. So I'm like, I got to kind of succumb to this. So sorry if I sound strange. All right. So what we know is that there's no way we can get out of our debt situation into financial wealth by working more jobs. The more jobs we work, the poorer we become. We're real familiar with that at this point. If you've been on any of our calls since we started this up back in August. And for those of you who have been funded and are already doing your Shopify stores, you're already doing your Amazon stores, you're doing your car dealerships or Turo, whatever businesses, you know you're having success at money that was never available to you before. You just got funded. And as of right now, Daz and I have funded over $1 million to people who qualified. We're going to talk about that qualification in a second. And instead of having to work harder, which forces us to have to use the only non-renewable resource in the world, which is our time on the planet, but we have to use our time, transduce it into Federal Reserve notes, and then try to invest it. Instead, we can, in a minute, use other institutions' money with none of our time involved to go invest and leverage us into financial wealth and well-being. And there is no rich person that you can name, none, who used their own money to make their empire. Not one. So funding from other institutions, not other people's money. We say that a lot. A lot of folks say, but I don't want to use other people's money. I want them to use other institutions' money too, because it's the institutions that have been stealing from us, from our generational wealth for the last 100 years. We don't want to use other people's money. We want them to use other institutions' money too, which is what Daz and I are trying to get across to everybody, the institutional money that is available to us as corporations and businesses. And if you don't have one of those, it's easy for us to set that up with you. So if you could go get 100K, why wouldn't you? Well, the main reason is because you don't know what to do with it. That most people, when they win the lottery, I should say it's not most people, it's about 1 in 5 people who win the lottery. We're talking, these are people who are getting between $3 and $4 million a year for the next 20 odd years, will go broke because they don't know what to do with it. And the way the media has spun us into a retail spending society without the knowledge of what to do with it, we go broke. There was a year I had a really, really good year, and I did not know what I know now. I made over $250,000, and in those days, that was a lot. And I don't have any of it left. I mean, I got out of debt for a minute, but then got right back in. This was, back in the early aughts. And so knowledge is everything, whether you hit the lottery or not. And for some of you, getting $25,000 at 0% for the next 18 months would be like hitting the lottery, especially if you knew what to do with it. And if you knew that you could turn it into $3,000 a month, that'd be life-altering. And if that'd be life-altering for you, put a 1 in the chat box, so I know I'm not talking to dead people, no zombies. So how do we get funded? Here's how we do. We've got 3 phases. And tonight we're going to be talking about, thank you, Christy, we're going to be talking about phase 1. Last week we talked, or 3 weeks ago, we talked about phase two. We have a great new vendor with phase two. But phase one, up to 100,000. The most we've ever been able to get anyone funding for is 108. It's pretty great. Phase two is up to $800 with direct corporate lenders. And then if you have real estate, equity, something like that as collateral, then we can get you out, a lot farther. But today, we're going to talk about phase one. What can you do with it? Anything. As long as you take our instructions on the interview once you're approved, and there is an interview, you can even do trading in crypto. You can even use it to get more leverage because no one's going to ask you once you're funded. It's pretty great. There's no financials required. There's no income verification. And the very least that we've seen is 0% for 12 months with a 60-day grace period. So you could, like some of you are doing the, oh my goodness, my brain. What do you call it when you rent the Airbnb? Sorry. Airbnb, where you're literally buying up an Airbnb with the rentals at a super low rate, locking it in, and then subletting it, which a lot of people are starting to do. You can do that, and for the first 60 days, you don't got to make any payments. And it's 0%, so it's literally free money. And a lot of people are taking advantage of this new thing. We don't have a good solution for that for you yet, but when we do, we will bring it to you as an option. What's the cost? It costs $1. It doesn't go to us. That goes to the credit run, which is a soft pull on your credit. It doesn't affect your credit at all. You need to have a 685 FICO or better. You need to have a corporate bank account, which we can set you up with within 24 hours, and including an employer identification number attached to an LLC, which again, we can set you up with in less than 24 hours in a state that has no state tax. Your FICO needs to be corporate clean, not regular clean. Regular clean means, well, it's 685 and I've got a late, or I've got a bankruptcy from 9 years ago, or I got an IRS tax lien, but it's still 685. No. It needs to be truly clean. Like there's no blemishes, there's no lates. And we've talked many times about how we do have sources and vendors who will help you clean up everything except IRS tax lien, which I can help you with. You should probably talk to me about that. Bankruptcy and foreclosure. If you have any of those, I'm going to say it's not going to be possible for you until those fall off. Your bankruptcy is 10 years from the day of funding. The day of filing. Your IRS tax lien is 10 years unless we get it taken care of, which we can in many cases. And your foreclosure 7. The rest, however, can be pried off depending on your situation with, we'll call it certain pressures and leverages from our vendors. You also can't have too many inquiries. Those can also be handled and those kinds of things. How do you do it? Well, you go to apply at the3scores.com. You're going to see a page that looks substantially like this one. You're going to run the numbers, cost you $1. Download the PDF. Depending on your browser, you either hit save as and it'll give you a PDF, or if it doesn't, then just do print the score that comes up and print as PDF. And then you're going to email that PDF to us at a secure website or a secure email at funding@legacyascending.com. In the body of the email, because we can't look it up, we don't, so that we can attach it to you and send it to our lenders in the right way. They know who's who. You're going to put your name, address, phone, last four of your social slave number in the body of the email. That way we can connect it and make sure it's all organized. So if you don't have a good FICO score, these are the things that cause you to not have a good FICO score. Almost all of these can be cured, except for those 3 examples that I mentioned before. If you don't have enough history, that's also another one that's difficult, but it's unlikely, it's unlikely that it'll keep you from getting anything. Unless you're 40 years old and last year you opened your first credit card. That's kind of the problem. But the ones that are causing most people issues that we find are too much credit usage and any single card usage over 50%. Ideally, we want to see credit card usage overall and individually on your cards under 30%. You start really losing funding capability between that 30 and 50% per card and overall. You crack over 50% on either one of those, and you're going to get a denial. Now, the great thing about our lender, it's probably the only lender we've ever worked with that does this, is they'll tell you what you need to fix. Like you go in, like we've got people who have 180 credit, or sorry, 88, 800, 840 credit. They'll come to us and they'll say, well, we know who these vendors are. They send us letters all the time. All right, we'll go apply. Well, once you apply to American Express once, and even if they accept you, you're not going to be able to apply again. If they deny you, they're not going to tell you what's wrong. But our lender, who works with all of them, will. And if you get denied, you can go fix it and apply again. It's amazing how this works. So once you fix it, you can reapply very quickly. If you don't have a good FICO score, you can, of course, in the world of I need to pay down debt, you can join our affiliate program and make money helping people get funding, sell real estate, do other things, or pay down that debt quicker. And the other one, which we've really been focusing on is, that if you have an LLC, you can bring someone else into your LLC who has good funding, who gets or good credit, who gets good funding, and then we can set up a contractual situation with them in your LLC as a member so that they act as a bank to your LLC, as a lender themselves, getting 10% or whatever you negotiate, and a piece of perhaps the business that you're running, backed by your business, backed by your personal guarantee. It's not foolproof, but where else are these people going to be getting 10% or more on their money? Nowhere. So it's usually a win-win. So 685, we'll set you up with that LLC if you don't have one. We got to have that plan for the catch, which is why once you get approved, you get on the phone with Daz or Daz and I. Costs you $1, and basically you send it here. Anybody have questions about this, the funding? We've talked about this a lot. I just want to review it because what we're going to share with you, this vendor, this very special guest that we have, is going to solve the yellow problems right here. Now, how many of you get excited about the fact if somebody goes, hey, listen, I can pay down your debt. I can help you pay down this debt faster with some tax benefits, with some generational wealth benefits. Anybody get excited about that? Put a 2 in the chat box if that gets you excited. Now, some of you don't believe it. And if you're like, I don't believe you, that's impossible. Put a 0 in the chat box. That's okay too. Anybody mad? Put an 8 in the chat box. You're like, this makes me mad. This whole thing. Your voice sounds strange. That makes me mad. I'm mad before I even got here. I got cut off on the way here. Marquita, thank you. Barry, thank you. Good to see you, Barry. Barry's going to blow your mind. I'm going to tell you. Whole life is amazing. This is another amazing. All right, how do we pay down our debt? Some of you know about our buddy Dave Ramsey. He's just down the street from me. Well, a couple miles, many miles, but he's down the road there. That $100 million building that I'm sure he bought by saving. Sorry, inside joke. Here's what we do. If you got a $40,000 credit footprint, in other words, all these cards together means you've got $40,000 that are available to you, and you have 22,000 of them in use. In other words, you've got a balance all in of 22,000. You've got a 725 FICO score. Do you qualify for our funding situation? Put it in the chat box. If you qualify, put yes. If you don't qualify, put no. If this were you, say yes, I would qualify. No, I don't qualify. Put it in the chat box. So Austin says no. Who else? Do you qualify for our funding, our level 1 funding, if you have a $40,000 total credit capability, $22,000 of it on there with a 725 FICO? Christy Miller says no. Anybody else want to weigh in? Anyone else thinks yes, you do qualify? Or anybody else says nope? Yeah, there's over 50% usage. Marquita says no. I got overwhelming no, and you're correct. Over 50% instant decline. The good news is the vendors or our lenders going to say, here's why. Here are the cards you need to pay down. Now, believe it or not, there's also programs that they have that will temporarily, believe it's miracles, temporarily pay down your credit card for 30 days. Actually, it's 45 days. Wow, and that instantly changes your credit score. And then you apply and get all your credit, and then they dump it back on your card. It's wild stuff. It's perfectly legit. I'm not making it up. Several people have done it. But it's expensive. How about this one? There's Naomi. You got $40,000 in credit. One card has a $20,000 line. Only one with $11,000 on the card, but it's at 0% and you have a 775 FICO. Do you qualify for our program or funding program number one here? Yes or no? One card has a $20,000 overall line. You've got $11,000 on the card, but it's at 0%. Austin says yes. Anybody else say yes? Anybody else say yes? Who says no? Anybody? Anybody say no? Put it in the chat box, y'all. Go, go, go. I want to make sure we're all on board. Everybody understands how this works because we've had a lot of people apply and had to get turned down because they didn't quite understand how this worked. Who else? Carrie, Marquita, what do you say? Barry, you got a $40,000 overall. Marquita says no. Austin says yes. Who else? One card has a $20,000. Carrie says no. We're starting to see more no's than yeses. Who says yes? Anybody say yes? I would apply, and I would be good. Barry says no. Anybody else? One last person, one last vote. I got 3-1 no's. Anybody want to put it to 5? No. All right, the no's have it. Dazzle says no. Dazzle would know. She's on the phone with our lenders all the time. No, because one card over 50% will do you in. Even though you're way under on your overall, you're one card over 50%. Even though it's at 0%, you're done. And they're going to say that card needs to be paid down. Here is what we would normally see. Now, some of you Dave Ramsey folks, you're very used to this. Let's say you got that $20,000 debt. The blue graph represents if you paid the minimum. Now, obviously, you're going to pay max interest, but minimum monthly. And you're going to see that this would take you at your minimum pay down about 8 years. If you paid 10%, sorry, it's very small down here, $200, so you got $20,000. Actually, that's 1%, I should say, 1% on 20,000. So 1% extra, $200 a month. You take your payment schedule from 8 years to less than 4. That's pretty dope for $200 a month. A 1% increase, really 10% per year. You're all used to this. Everybody's seen this kind of thing before. You're familiar with this. Pay a little bit more, and you make a lot quicker pay down. If you're not familiar with this, put a 0 in the chat box. If you've like, gosh, I've never seen that before. Put a 0 in the chat box. If you are familiar, put that 1 in the chat box so I know that everybody's seen this and understands. Everybody understands? Put a 1 in the chat box. If you're alive, there we go. Dazzle's seen it. I know she has. Christy, for sure. Marquita, Carrie. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Any zeros? Everybody's like, no, I've never seen that before. I didn't know about that. Okay, great. What if you had this kind of a pay down? You're like, what the heck is that? Ain't none of you seen this. What's that green stuff? It's money, y'all, money. Check this out. What if you paid $200 extra, and yeah, you still got it paid off before in 3 years, but you actually cranked up a $20,000 equity that continued on? Say what? Anybody going, that's not possible? Anybody getting their head blown off? Like, that's crazy. Let me show you how this works. This is what we're going to talk about. I'm giving you the overview. Giving you the overview, and then the rest of y'all are going to get Christy. She's going to show you how this works. So minimum, you pay a $20,000 debt with minimum due every month. You're going to crank $26,000 in interest. Interest! That's not how much you're going to pay. You're going to pay $46,000. That's your interest, y'all. Woo! Who's winning on this game? It ain't the social slaves. Now, if you pay $10,000, if you pay that 10% extra, that $200 a month, then you're going to pay it down in just under 4 years. It's 3 and change. Only paying $11,000, and look at what you're saving. Interest not paid. That's pretty dope. That's what Dave Ramsey wants you to believe, and quite frankly, he's right about that. Right? Not a big deal. But here's what we're talking about. We're talking about a third party getting involved. Basically, and she's going to explain this to you, we'll call it, for lack of a better term, an insurance company. Instead of paying that extra to the bank, the evil banks, we're going to pay that extra $200 a month to this insurance company. Still making the minimum here. Still making our minimum payments there. Now, let's say that first credit card has a $1,000 balance. That's fine. Once you get enough money to pay, sorry, those are all in the wrong place. Once you get enough money in this policy to equal $1,000, it's got to be a little bit more than that. Around figures, $1,000, you can discharge, loan, borrow from this policy $1,000 and pay the bank. You just paid the credit card off. Pretty dope. And you're like, well, why? Who cares? Why would I do that? Well, because once you've done that, you now have a $1,000 policy that's making 4% APR that you can borrow against. Now you've paid that $1,000 off, give or take, you have an extra $50 a month, and now you can be adding to the policy. You pay off your borrow in 4 months. Now the next card's $2,000. Well, then 4 months in, you've got now a $2,000 policy value. You do the same thing. You pay off that card, and it goes to the bank. Now you have a $2,000 policy value. This is equity. You're making your money work for you in multiple ways, not just I'm giving it back to the bank with interest, hoping to get out of this. I'm actually building equity. Then that borrowed amount is paid off, and I go to the next, and the next, and the next. And by the way, since I'm also making my minimum, those amounts come down and down and down and down very fast, so that we still have this payoff roughly here. It's a little bit later, not much, but now at the end, we have this massive equity. And when we have all the debt paid off, we have a $20,000 policy value, again, making 4%, from which we can borrow for a down payment on a house if we want, or whatever we want. Now it's in our favor, much like the whole life that we talked about before. And I'm making this up, it's actually going to be a little bit different, but you're roughly in a low six-figure death benefit, which I promise you, there ain't no death benefit, just paying your cards off. Thank you very much, Dave Ramsey. Anybody excited about this? And then, for $200 a month, it keeps going up for the rest of your life. Pretty dope. I'm generalizing. Anybody excited about this? Put an exclamation point in the chat box. So just some comparisons. Yeah, Austin, I told you you'd be glad to be on this call. I hope you brought your friends. Policy. That's what I'm calling this. She's going to have a better name. Policy. Doesn't cost you anything. There's a death benefit. You build equity at 4%. It's tax deferred, the money that you're making. Now, you will pay slightly more. Thank you, Marquita. Thank you, Thea. You will pay slightly more on your debt, slightly. But you get a six-figure death benefit and all this equity. Now, our buddy Mr. Ramsey wants you to do it. Again, nothing up front, but you get no value. And, of course, you'll pay to what you agreed at the banks. Here's what whole life looks like at its base bare minimum. We've talked about whole life before. And the reason we don't do whole life for this is because most of y'all don't have 30K up front or 50K up front or 100K up front, which is going to be what's required. Now, you get about a 5x death benefit, but you should because you're putting a ton more money in up front. You get to build equity at 6% or more, and then the rest of this is much the same. But the big no thank you with whole life is you got to have money up front. It doesn't just show up out of nowhere. And that's the beauty of this. There ain't no money up front. You just start adding up that 10% or more. Obviously, the more you add, the faster it gets paid down. All right, with that, the general gist of what we're talking about, I'm going to hand this over to Christy Miller, who is, well, quite frankly, she's going to change all y'all's lives. Because some of you all have been desperate to get in with our funding program and can't. And can't do it because you can't get your money, you can't get those debts paid down fast enough. And you're stuck in this model, trying desperately to get this down. Well, what's not on this graph is she might actually be able to help you get it paid down, not just here, but over here. Because it's not just, oh, you add a little bit more money to your debt. They actually have a program, a comprehensive program to figure out which credit cards and which debts need to be paid down first so that you can get that orange bit much further to the left. And maybe in the next 4 months, your credit score up quite a bit farther to be able to qualify for the minimum funding. With that, I hand it over to Christy Miller.
Wow, I don't know that I need to do anything. You did such a great job there, Mark.
Now, that's just the general. You guys got questions. Here she is.
I don't know what's going on with my lighting, but sometimes I'm showing up on my screen and sometimes I'm not. So I promise I'm not a ghost. My name is Christy Miller. I am with a company that does a program that we call Debt Free Life. My agency is the Christy Miller Agency. This program we've been offering to people for roughly since about 2019. Really excited to be able to be on here and share this with all of you. When I was first introduced to it, I had one of my agents who went with me to take a look at it. It was pretty mind blowing. Now I'm going to share her story and how it's impacted her. She was just going through a divorce. Through her divorce, they had no retirement set up. There wasn't really any money set up. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she took care of the kids. Her husband was self-employed, so it was just kind of a little bit of savings. But she decided she wanted to start her own life over. She had a truck payment that she owed on, and she was trying to get her income built up. So she was sitting there trying to figure out what she could do, and we took a look at this program, and she wasn't sure what was going to happen over the next year. She started her policy up. She started investing into it. She was able to pay her Jeep off. She had 4 years left on it to pay. She was able to pay it off in just under 2 years. But not only that, less than a year later, she was able to purchase her own home. She used the money that grew into that policy as her down payment to be able to buy her own home and lock in, a 4-point-something% interest rate. She bought it back in I think February or March. Now, previous to her having this policy, she had no idea what she was going to do. Now, after paying, putting her down payment down, and it wasn't just a regular down payment, because that was during the time when you were purchasing homes, people were actually bidding over the price of homes. So she was able to actually outbid everybody on this particular home and put $50,000 down to purchase the home, overbidding it and keep it and do a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30-year mortgage. So just utilizing this policy. She is able to adjust. It's very flexible. She can pay more into it. She can pay less into it if she needs to. She can adjust it as she needs to adjust it. But she always has access to that cash. She was able just actually 6 months ago to be able to tap into it and pay off her credit cards that she had, obviously, when you buy a home, you have some fix-ups and things of that nature to do. So she had used her credit cards to do that. 6 months after purchasing her home, she was able to use this policy as a way to pay off the credit card debts that she had incurred just doing her basic cosmetic fix-ups with this. This is her retirement now. It's what she invests into to have tax savings, tax deferred savings. It's what she's used to purchase her home. It's what she's used to set up her retirement. And it's what she's used to essentially make herself debt free. The way she uses credit cards at this point, the way she uses her credit cards now is she uses them and pays them off every month, uses them, pays them off every month. So she's essentially debt free minus her mortgage, but she was able to not strap into a 30-year mortgage, but really a 15-year mortgage. And she's actually going to be able to pay that off even less than 15 years. So what are we talking about here? When I saw that, actually in action, it just blew my mind. And that's when I realized, we're taking a look at where we're at right now, just as a country as a whole, right? I'm sure most of you have taken a look at the U.S. debt clock. I know Mark has. If you are familiar with the U.S. debt clock, go ahead and put
Show them
one.
that? Can you pull that up really fast? Because some people haven't seen it. I've shown it on previous calls, but you guys want to see really what's going on in the country? Stop watching MSNBC. Stop watching, whatever, Fortune 500. Just pull this website up for a second. Just pull it up for a second and be like, oh, they're lying to us. Okay. Yeah, we should probably just gander at this about once a month and remind ourselves the real state we're in. Especially for those of you who are like, oh, my 401k and my IRA and all that. And if you guys aren't checking out our videos on what to do with those, you really need to look at that, because again, that's like taking a loan without knowing what the interest rate is, because the IRS is going to change their rules. They're already trying to change them on you to take your retirement away. Here it is. Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
That's okay. Thank you. No, here, and it's kind of doing a portion screen here, guys. So I'm not sure exactly what you can see. But if you're looking right here, our U.S. national debt right now is just under $32 trillion. $32 trillion is our U.S. national debt. Yeah, that's insane. Here's our U.S. federal tax revenue. That's what we generate for the government. 4.6 trillion. I mean, Mark, if we showed up with these numbers to you to get some kind of a funding for a business, what do you think you would say to us?
Well, they'd say you might have a nice credit score of, I think America's credit score on a FICO level is right around 760 right now. I think that's if you were to equate dollars for apples to apples. But your debt to income ratio is a little off,
You think?
a little off.
Just a little bit. You can take a look at this. It's going to actually show you. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see down here, but it talks about the average median income for Americans is right around $35,000 a year.
Some of y'all complaining about making 70,000. You're double the norm.
Double the norm. So 35,000 is the average median. The average cost of a mortgage right now is $500,000. This is this is not cool. This is a big problem. This is a very, 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 very big problem for us to have. So even if you're taking a look at this, you're realizing that, if your debt to income ratio is out of whack, don't feel bad, because most of Americans are. Our Social Security is not going to be around much longer. I mean, 2035, we'll be lucky if 75% of the benefits get paid out to retirees. Medicare is looking to be insolvent by 2026, completely insolvent. The only way that the government can really try to even dig us out of that hole is to increase our taxes, right? So now we're looking at having to pay higher taxes. If you think about this, when COVID hit, this is crazy, and this applies to you guys, and I'm sure a bunch of it that you guys are going to be able to relate to what I'm saying here, but a third of Americans opened up credit cards in 2020 just to exist. 33% of Americans opened up credit cards just to live in 2020. 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 44% of Americans were living above their means prior to COVID. So we have a serious problem with debt. And we have to have a way to be able to take care of this situation. Inflation is up about 18% over the last 12 to 18 months. But if you think about just the cost of wages and increase in pay, we're still actually 8% down since 2006. We've only increased 11%, but it's still 8% down since 2006. So what the heck are we going to do? What the heck are you going to do? What are Americans going to do, right? So this is what we have come to show you. There is definitely a way that you can pay off your debt faster, build a retirement, tax deferred, and in some cases tax-free. Can you see this? So first of all, successful financial.
You've got the thing on the left in again. So if you want to go back to advanced, that way you can go back to your share under advanced. That way you see the whole picture.
I'm telling you. So please pardon me. I am not technologically advanced, but
nope, still got the same.
Why is it not letting me do this? Advanced portion screen.
Zoom still thinks it's a $600 a share company.
It's still showing it, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. Can you drag little square? There you go. Yeah.
There we go. Is that better?
Drag little squares. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so successful financial and retirement planning starts with setting goals, short, intermediate, and long-term goals, right? Everything is difficult in life, requires teamwork to achieve, and that includes financial freedom. It requires a team of people. Some of you have financial advisors. Some of you work with people such as myself with your insurance. Some of you work with Mark with legacy wealth building. But it takes a team of people to do this. The keys to successfully having a financial plan is A, know what your money is doing. B, create the plan, and 3, get the expert advice and get expert guidance. If you think about this, so I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with what's called shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve, but what that is it shows a rags to riches to rags in 3 generations. So the father buys, the son builds, the grandson sells, and the great grandson begs. Right. So that's kind of generationally. So if we're taking a look at this and you look at the baby boomers are actually the generation that tracks the most of their money. They know exactly where their money's going, how it's being spent, what's being spent each single month because of where they came from. They came from parents who lived through the Great Depression. But then you get to the Gen Xers, they have a little less knowledge of what's going on with their money. The millennials is less than that. And then Gen Zers have no idea what's going on with their money. So how can we make sure that we know what our money is doing for us and create that plan? Well, get expert guidance for one. Now, what if I could show you how to get out of debt and build wealth without spending any additional money? You're not spending any additional money than what you're already spending. If you think that that's a great idea, put 1 in the chat. And what would your life be like if you were able to accomplish that? If all of your mortgage and your debts were paid off, would your retirement be more comfortable? These are questions that you should be asking yourself, to yourself. How would that look if your debts were paid off? How would that look in the program that Mark is showing you to be able to get funding to start other business ventures? How is that going to look long term for the money that you're going to be able to generate with that? Now, let me tell you what this is not. A lot of people will think it's debt consolidation. No, we do not do debt consolidation. So with debt consolidation, that actually is going to hurt your credit, right? Because you have time, you have to wait, you're putting you're consolidating all of your debts, you're missing payments, and then that kills your credit score. We are not that. We are not debt consolidation. As a matter of fact, we're going to educate you and show you how you can pay off your debt faster while actually increasing your credit score. So it's kind of cool. Get rich quick. No, this is not a get rich quick scheme. It does take some time and some discipline. We're not multi-level marketing, and there is no sales pitch. There's 0 cost to get started with this. There's no fees, no upfront cost, as Mark was telling you earlier. What do we do? Well, there's 3 phases of money, right? So we maximize, accumulate, and distribute. We focus on all 3 phases of your money. So we're making the most out of every dollar. We're accumulating it so that we're using every dollar twice. So your dollar bill has 2 jobs. And then you have the distribution where you get to enjoy a worry-free retirement. How do we utilize this? Now, some of you may know some of these concepts, but we use concepts that have been around for decades. One is the debt snowball. The debt snowball is where you pay off your debts in order of smallest balance to largest. So let's think about it this way. If you have a car payment and you're paying $60 over on your car payment because you're trying to get that debt paid off faster, as Mark was talking about with the Dave Ramsey, and you have credit cards and you're paying $20 over on the credit cards to get that paid off, and you have 2 of them, you have $100 right now of money that you can redistribute somewhere else that's going to actually help you to pay off your debt even faster. So the debt snowball pays off smallest balances to largest. Then there's the debt avalanche, which is same concept. You have that same $100 that you are already spending somewhere, but we redirect it somewhere else and put it into our program. And it pays off your debts, though, using the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. So that's the debt avalanche. Our program that we have an exclusive software that we can plug all of this into, because every single one of you has a different situation. You have different debt, you have different lives, you have different incomes. And so the debt snowball might be great for some of you. The debt avalanche might be great for some of you. Let's just kind of compare. If you're taking a look at the Chase credit card in the snowball, that's going to be the first one that's paid off. But over here in the debt avalanche, it's going to be the 4th one to be paid off because it's based on interest rates. So what our exclusive software does is it puts it in there to actually design the plan specific to you, your debts, what your goals are that you're trying to achieve, so that it's paying these debts off in the order that they need to be paid off for you to achieve the maximum results that you're looking to achieve. The third way that we have is what's called infinite banking concept. How many of you have heard of infinite banking concept? I don't know that I can see chat, actually. So if you're putting a 1 in the chat, I can't see it. Infinite banking concept, essentially, you become your own bank. So a bank is a business, right? So how would you like to be able to be your own bank? So example, if you have $10,000 in the bank might give you 1% on that, right? And you walk into the bank the next day, you borrow that 10,000, what's your interest rate? They're going to charge you anywhere from 4% to 29% on your own money, but they're only going to give you 1% of that. Now, if you could cut that out and become your own bank while you're actually achieving compounding interest at a 4% guaranteed, what would that do for your life? How would that change your life? What would that make it look like for your life? Any of you play this game? When you were kids, I loved this game. But we're in the game of life, right?
I love the spinner. I love that. The little mountains. That was so cool.
Yeah, I love the game. I just love the game. I love to win the game. Let's put it that way. I came from a household of 6 kids and I love to win. But sometimes in life, it just feels like every step forward that we take, we're taking 2 steps back, right? Especially because we rely so heavily on taking credit out that we end up upside down. So if you take a look at just what the average American's household looks like, this is basically how the average Americans run their household in. You know, they've got 23% that they put towards lifestyle. They put 3% into savings, paying typically 34% on interest, and 40% is going towards taxes. So the average household debt right now is $250,000. But only 23% of it actually goes to your own lifestyle. That's kind of ridiculous.
And the average, remember, is 30,000 a year is what they
Yeah,
make.
right. Exactly. 35,000. We'll give them that 5,000 range, but $250,000 of debt on $35,000 a year. You're upside down and you're not going to get ahead. With our debt-free life approach, what we do is we redirect your spending so that you have 15% going into savings. We've cut your interest down from 34% to 22%. We've cut your taxes down from 40% down to 30%. And we've increased your lifestyle income from 23% to 33%. And Mark, maybe you can jump in here and just share with me with your experience, what would a 10% increase in lifestyle funds do?
Well, for those of us who understand that investment is how you play Monopoly, not keeping going around and around the board renting, right? If you play Monopoly, y'all, and you never bought a property, never bought a railroad, you never bought an electric company or anything else, you just went around and just said, oh, I'm good, you're going to die. You're going to be the first person out. I can take 10% and I can go buy the little things that maybe pay me. Invest, and then create business that deducts taxes even further. Lots of opportunities that way.
That's
And by the
right.
way, on a $35,000 a year income, 10% is $3,500. If you hang out with Daz and I long enough, you'll know that $3,500 could mean quite a bit to your future every year.
Just think about that. Total assets by the age of 65. So we all will make a lifetime income of about $2 million. Doesn't feel like it though, does it? Not at $35,000 a year. It certainly doesn't. But at retirement, typically funds at retirement is 60,000. So that, this isn't the American dream. This isn't what we're here to do. We're here to do what Mark and Daz are trying to teach you how to do, how to diversify your income, how to invest and let your money work for you and not you working for your money. I mean, that's really what we're here to do and enjoy our life. I want to just kind of show you a little bit of how this example works. And then we can talk about the tax benefits, and we can talk about just how it grows for a retirement and legacy wealth building. So this is Mark and Joyce. Mark and Joyce are the average American family. They're 37, 35. They have a monthly income right there, just a little, 48,000. They're a little bit above the average median. For him and for her, it's like 6,000. So their desired monthly retirement is $5,000 a month. They have children 3, 4, and 8, college savings, none. Why? Because all of their income is being spent towards paying off their debt, getting more into debt so that they can keep living the lifestyle that they want to live and provide for their kids the things that their kids want to do. So they're up to their eyeballs in debt. Their main areas of interest was to increase retirement, reduce debt, get their spending under control. Remember, if you're not controlling your spending and you don't know where your money's going from, then how do you build a plan of action to actually increase your wealth? And thereby increasing your generational wealth and leaving a legacy behind for your children. College planning and increased savings. Now, what they had to work with for their savings and investments, B of A, they have an emergency account that has $6,000. They're putting $25 a month into it. Their interest rate is 0.25%. They said, yes, this money is available. Then they have a Fidelity 401k. If you have a 401k, that is actually something that we can utilize to help you to put into this program and make it work better to your benefit. But they had 36.5 in there, 300 monthly, 5% interest.
Remember, you can borrow against your 401k. You cannot borrow against your IRA.
Right. But Mark, if you borrow against your 401k, what happens?
If you borrow against your 401k, you get half up to 50% loan to value at about 6 to 7%, for which you could temporarily go and pay off your, pay off that debt to get ahead.
And do you get taxed on that money or penalized for borrowing it?
No, you do not.
Nice.
No,
all right.
Borrowing is tax-free.
So here is their current debt. They've got a Visa, medical, dental, credit card, furniture, auto, and a mortgage. Their combined interest rate of all of these is roughly 10%. Their principal balances for their debt is $180,000, just a little over that. And their monthly payments that they're spending out is $2,177. But here's the thing. Here's what we don't think about. We think about, okay, this is our principal balance, right? This is what I owe, $180,000. But if they stayed on that 30-year train of paying their debts on time and making those minimum payments, their real debt is actually $380,000. They're going to be paying almost $200,000 in interest alone over the course of 30 years. That's $200,000. Now, Mark was saying right now, you guys are at $100,000 for your funding. I mean, you'd be saving $200,000 in interest by being able to pay your debts off faster. This is their current retirement, 36.5, 300 contribution, 5% annual interest at a 25% income bracket. Before taxes, they'd be looking at about $508,000, $509,000 before taxes. After taxes, they get to retire on $307,000. We'll just round it up. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that's not a very good retirement plan. With our program, this is what we were able to do for them. Now, mind you, 30 years. 30 years is what they were strapped into for that. We were able to free them from all of their lenders, including their mortgage. So all of their debt, including their mortgage, was paid off in 7.8 years. We saved them $122,739 in interest. We freed up $2,177 a month for their retirement. And the savings over the course of the 30 years utilizing this program and them being able to use other types of programs to invest money into generated $1 million for their retirement. Remember, their current plan, $306,000. Our plan gives them $1 million for their retirement. By not doing this debt-free life program, it actually is a benefit loss of $820,000 over the course of 30 years for them. Small change, maybe, Mark?
Yeah, small change, right?
So, any questions so far? Anybody have any questions or comments?
I think probably if you jump into how this works, because they're on the edge of their seats now going, great, how do I do it?
Okay. So this is where we find inefficient dollars. So you're taking, first of all, we're going to take a look at any insurance policies that you do have. Maybe you have a term policy and you're spending $74 a month on that. Because this is also insurance and it makes sense if and only if it makes sense to replace that policy for you, we will replace that policy to redirect that $74 into this insurance policy. You have debt, your consumer debt that you have going on. So you're overpaying $220 total between your two credit cards, maybe your mortgage, your truck payment, whatever your debt is that's going on. Let's say you have $220 of money that you're paying out to get that debt paid off faster, like Mark was showing you earlier in it. Then you have your mortgage. A lot of people are just throwing an extra $100 on their mortgage every month because it goes to that principal balance, bringing that principal balance down a little bit faster. This particular one had $30,000 in their savings account that they wanted to also utilize in here, but it's not necessary to do so. He just happened to have it. And then extra income that he said he could put towards above and beyond, which gave him $994 a month that he could invest into this policy here each month to be able to pay his debts down faster. Here's what he currently was looking like. So it was going to take him 25 years to pay off $6.4 million. I'm not 6.4, I'm sorry, $640,000 of debt, including his mortgage, which was $581,000 of it. And he was paying his monthly minimums were $41.16. But what he was overpaying over here gave him an additional $320 a month. So between that $320, his life insurance policy that was replaced, and then his investments from his savings account, that's where that money came from. So when we say that this is a way for you to pay off your debts in 9 years or less, including your mortgage, as well as build an asset, create an asset and build your retirement without spending any additional money, this is what we're talking about. You're already spending this money. It's not money we're asking for you to come up with. It's not your grocery money. It's not your fun money, right? This is money you're already spending to try to pay off your debt by yourself anyways.
And let me just be clear. Some of you are, I can tell some of you are kind of glossing over like, oh, what? Some of you have term life. My dad just turned 80. He lost last year over $750,000 of life insurance because he got too old. Mm-hmm. With this, and he paid tens of thousands of dollars into that to get nothing, zero value, because he lived thank God, he's still alive. But as an investment, that was crap. So what she's saying is get rid, and she's not a financial advisor, and I'm not either, but the suggestion is, hey, get rid of your term life as an example, blow it up, take that money and put it into something that is not going to expire no matter how old you are. That's one example of where you're using your money to do something that's going to give you generational wealth, that when you pass at 99 years old, right, Russell, you're going to live at least that long, that your grandkids are going to get whatever that is, $250,000, whatever the number is. It's guaranteed, tax-free. You know it's going to happen because it's not going to expire. And that's value.
And not only is it not going to expire, but it's a guaranteed growth of 4%. It's a guaranteed growth of 4%. So rather than have a term that's not going to get you anything but a peace of mind, and then like Mark said, when somebody's 75, 80 years old, it expires. Now they're left unprotected for one. They oftentimes, what we find is they cannot afford to put any kind of additional life insurance in place because of their age and their health at that point. And two, they're not getting any kind of a cash value out of it. So yeah, for me, I'm going to make sure it makes sense first, but I am definitely going to take a look at your term life policies and redirect that money into something that's going to give you way more value for the long term. So this is money that you're already spending. Does that make sense? You're already spending an additional, 85 to 78. So you're already spending an additional $7 a month to pay down that Citibank. You're already spending $114 more a month to pay off the Bank of America. You're already spending an additional $50 a month to pay off that solar bill. You're already spending an additional $9 a month to pay off that Forerunner, right? You're already spending the $40 a month to pay off that BMW faster. You're already spending this money. But what if we took your money, we said, stop paying for a liability And let's take that additional money and start making it work in your favor. So now, not only are you paying your liabilities off, but the second job that you're giving your money is to actually create an asset and build wealth for you. It's got two jobs now, and it's getting compounding interest in doing so. So for this guy doing that, he took his 25 years of debt down to 12 years and 10 months. That includes his almost $600,000 mortgage, saving him almost $66,000 in interest. That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. Now, here's the other thing that's really cool about it. There's no direct loan recognition, which means that all the interest and dividends are credited to the total cash value, not the net cash value. So what do I mean by that? So you have your participating whole life, because that's what this is. It's a participating whole life. The reason why we use a participating whole life is because the insurance carrier is participating. You get to participate in the profits and dividends of what the insurance carrier is getting on this. Thereby, your death benefit is growing faster, your cash value is growing faster. But here's the beauty of it, because you can actually start drawing this money within 30 days of starting this program. So, for example, if you had $100,000 of cash value in your policy, and you needed to take a loan out of $50,000, then the interest and dividends would still be credited to the whole total $100,000. So the interest and dividends that are being paid to this policy are being paid on what the total cash value is, not what your net cash value is. You're not borrowing the money. Technically, you're not even borrowing the money from your policy. You're borrowing the money from the insurance carrier. Because you borrow the money from them, it's tax-free. You don't have to pay any taxes on it.
Come on, y'all. You got to get this.
This is a huge benefit. As long as you're taking these policy loans out, there's no taxes. None. That's pretty huge. Another benefit that you get is you get to borrow from yourselves and not the bank. So what we're trying to do with this debt-free program is we're trying to change people's behavior so that you start borrowing from yourself rather than the banks, so that you can have more control over your assets. Because if you control your assets, if you control your money, then you know best how to use it in order to generate more. Is that true, Mark?
Yeah, and let's talk about banks failing. Banks are failing. Oh, you're borrowing from a bank. Well, first of all, the only thing that's not going to fail in a bank is the loans. Because, I can't give you your $10,000 today from your savings account, but I'll lend you $10,000. I promise you I can do that. But this money that you're saving, you're not saving, you're generating it, is not with a bank, it's with an insurance carrier.
Right.
And insurance carriers are never going to fail, y'all. The banks will fail, but most of the insurance carriers are privately held. Think about that. So all the banks are going to fall apart. And unless there's a zombie apocalypse, and I mean it, where 30% of the people who hold the insurance carriers become zombies and die, and then they all have to pay out the $1 million benefits everywhere, then they'd go under. But look, y'all, if it's a zombie apocalypse, we have other problems. So unless there's that, they're not going to fail. This is money. This is going away from the shysters and going into the place where, all the elite have their money. And that's where I want to have my funds.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't know how many of you know this, but what do you think the banks do with your money? Where do they invest your money? Anybody have an idea? Mark, can you see the...
Don't get me started. Yes, I'll look. Trade it, Carrie Mack. Come on. That's right.
Insurance policy.
Insurance policy. They put it in the market.
That's right. So if they're taking your money and opening insurance policies with your money so that they can make money and then turn around and pay you 1% on that, why the heck wouldn't you take that away from them and do it for yourself? Why wouldn't you do it for yourself? That's who they're doing it with. Invest in yourself. Get more than 1%. Pay off your debts faster. Build a retirement. Have tax-deferred or tax-free money. Build a legacy for your family that can continue to be passed on down and down and down, and have the ability to have the funds that you need necessary to open up these other vending businesses that Mark's talking about, the Spotify, so that now you have multiple streams of income. There's not a billionaire on the face of this earth who is a billionaire from one stream of income that I'm aware of. I could be wrong, but
nobody.
Not one.
I mean,
It's multiple streams of income.
how many times you've all heard it? Daz and I say the same thing since the beginning of this whole situation that we've been building, which is whatever the elite are doing, you want to do to the extent that you can. Now, we can't go buy an airline company and leverage that today, maybe tomorrow, but not today. But the fact that we can incorporate, that we can dodge all of the bear traps that they've given us, like the IRAs and the 401ks and the term life and the trusts, all that, that we can do what elites are really doing. Here's another one for you guys. All right, keep going.
No, I love it. I love it. You're getting me going, Mark.
You got to see why I like her, right? You see why she's great for us.
I mean, it's the elites have been utilizing this form for a long time. They really have been. So it's time for us to tap into it. Another benefit, because we're not done. Another benefit is you're building an asset, not just funding a liability. Like I said earlier, when you are making the extra payments to your debts, you're just giving that money to the lender. And that's great, because if that's all you want to do is just pay your debts off, then this might not be the best thing for you. But if you're looking for your dollar to have multiple jobs and be able to maximize what your dollar can do for you, not just for today, but for your future, then you really need to consider doing this. That's all I'm going to say. So when you pay off the debts through a loan yourself and you pay yourself back, it's building up cash value as an asset for your family, and it's compounding interest. Compounding interest. So Einstein said the greatest thing he ever learned in life was about compounding interest. That was the greatest thing he ever learned. It wasn't the light bulb. It was compounding interest. This is a way for us to be able to tap into that. Another benefit is it's a self-completing plan. So what does that mean? Should you die? Well, we're all going to die, right? But should you die early? Should you get a terminal illness? Should you get a chronic illness or a critical illness? You and your family will be able to actually access funds to help pay off those debts. And you'll be able to give your family financial security. So it has that death benefit attached to it, but it's not just a death benefit, it has living benefits attached to it as well. So let's say you have a heart attack and you live through it, but you're unable to work for, I don't know, a year because you're recovering. You have the ability to access cash within 15 days. You don't have to go through a credit check. You don't have to apply for the loan. All you have to do is submit a piece of paper that says, I need $15,000 from my policy. And within 15 days, you have a check in your hand. The majority of Americans are bankrupt because of medical issues. This will allow you to have a self-completing plan. So it's not just paying your debts off. It's not just building your retirement. It's not just tax deferred, but it's also that emergency fund that the majority of Americans don't even have a $500 emergency fund, let alone the ability to borrow some money from themselves and pay off the debt in the event that they have a chronic illness or be able to pay for the care that they need. Now, another benefit is that you're going to get a team of people through our debt-free life consultants that are going to help you out. So we're going to walk you through this step. We're going to set up the program that's best designed for your individual needs, the timing that you need, what do you need to pay off, what is your goal? But we're going to walk you all the way through to help you pay off that first debt so you know exactly how, when, where. What do you do to call the insurance company? We're going to be the first ones there sitting with you, teaching you how to do this every step of the way so that you know exactly how to maximize the use of this policy. You'll have the ability to call us if you need to change things. Life changes, right? Life changes. This isn't set in stone. It's flexible. So let's say you go and incur some more debt. Well, we can change your plan to add that new debt in. Or maybe you paid off a debt a lot faster than was anticipated. We can go in and adjust that. Maybe for a few months, you're kind of, I don't know, you got hit with a hurricane and you needed to rebuild your house or something, right? So being able to put all of those funds back in, redirecting it all back in so that it's overfunding your participating whole life, you just need to scale back to that minimum. That's okay as well. It's very flexible. So keep that in mind. Another benefit, now this says we could potentially lower taxes in retirement. The reason why we say potentially is because this policy needs to be enforced for your entire life in order to get the tax benefits. So there's one way that you can do this. Now, typically we set it up so that it's a 30, you're paying into it for 30 years, but you can also do a reduced paid up non-forfeiture option instead of canceling the policy, which means that you just kind of pay it up and then you don't make another premium payment again. You just let your money sit there and it just kind of grows and stays in force for life, so that when you do retire and you want those lower taxes and your retirement, you have that ability to do so. If you cancel the policy, you're surrendering the policy, which means that you're going to get taxed on the surrender of the policy. So you won't be able to actually enjoy the lower taxes in the retirement form of it. And your final benefit, like I've already said, your money has multiple jobs. So it's paying down your debts, it's building up an asset, it's building compounding interest. Should something happen to you, you have the living benefits. If you die, your family has a tax-free death benefit that's going to allow them to pay off debts, stay in their home, keep going, maybe invest, whatever it may be, but they're not going to be crippled. They're not going to be crippled. They're not going to have to sell their home. They're not going to have to downsize. They're not going to, they're going to have time to actually have options to move forward and keep progressing on. And this is all benefits that you would not have had if you were just putting the extra payments to your debt just to pay it down, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not making your money work for you in your favor. So any questions? That's pretty much what I have.
Just roll off mute if you'll have questions. How do we get started, Sam goes?
Oh, well, so let me share my card with you here again. If you all want to take a screenshot of this here, where is it? This is my QR code. It actually will take you to my Calendly to set up a 30-minute discovery call so that we can take a look at what it is that you're needing to have done and do an assessment for you and see how we can make this fit. Now, our ideal client, and I'm not sure if I said this before, but our ideal client is somebody who has a mortgage and at least 3 consumer debts, or no mortgage and at least 5 consumer debts. And from what I'm understanding from Mark, that pretty much fits all of you guys, because you're needing to pay off your consumer debts to be able to get the funding, to be able to start businesses with Mark, so that you're in that multiple stream of income category and making your money work for you. So that would be the best way for you to get started, is to set up a discovery call with me and let my team of people start working with you.
Great question, Sam. Anybody else? Thanks for the extra time tonight. Anybody else have a question? All right, y'all. Well,
I have one.
oh, did I say
go ahead.
Spotify? I did say Spotify. I'm so sorry.
You mean Shopify?
I'm looking at the chat. I meant Shopify. I'm so sorry.
That's it. Go ahead.
Is there anything specific that you would need to bring to the meeting?
Yes. So to the meeting, it would be good to have all of your financials. So your mortgage statements, your car statements. We need to know what your principal and interest is that you're paying. What are your interests? What is the interest on your debt? What's the time that you have on it? Was it an introductory 0% interest? And if so, when does that end? And what's your new interest rate going to be? So basically all of your statements for any of your consumer debt and your mortgage would be the best. That's pretty much the only thing you would need to bring, in just yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All
Anybody
right.
else?
Going once, going twice.
Let me just say thank you so much, you all, for allowing us to come on and share this with you. We look forward to partnering up with Mark and Dazzle in their affiliate program. Thank you, Samuel. And just seeing how we can help you guys to help yourselves through the program that Mark and Dazzle have put together for you guys as well. So thank you so much for your time. Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Great presentation. Thank you all. Please reach out if you have any questions. As always, this will go on our YouTube channel. So if you're with us on the Discord, you'll see the link for that. And if you want to replay, just reach out or just go to the YouTube channel. Maybe Daz will put that in the chat here. So if you haven't been to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to know what that is. But it's basically just search for Legacy Ascending on YouTube, and all the videos and all the stuff that we offer is there. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Blessings to you all. God bless you this week, and we just can't wait to see what y'all are going to create. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.